Welcome to episode 32 of our board game podcast, A Master's Degree in Rolling Terribly, where we are still smashing through our Frosthaven campaign with our recaps, scenario discussions, and topics centered around the game. I'm your host, Dirty, and joining me is my co-host, a man who pulled out every trick in the crab book and still couldn't pull us over the line, Gaz. Say hi, not OP Gaz.
Hi. Yeah, well, I tried. I think we all tried, but we didn't get there. Just short. Missed it by that much, which
Yeah.
it's just, I guess, spoilers for the whole episode. So you don't have to listen now. You know we failed.
It's finally happened. What we've been dreading for months and months and months. It finally happened. We failed the scenario with not enough time to play a second run to go into our recording, which was that week, and now we sit here knowing that we not only did we fail the scenario, but we didn't get to do the outpost phase, the outpost event, like all that kind of stuff. And it's a weird week now because I feel like everything, the axis is now off tilt or something like that,
Yeah.
and we're
Yeah.
going into
Well,
full unknown territory.
it's bizarre because, as well, we play on Mondays and then we record on Fridays. So there's usually a pretty big gap, which is long enough for me to completely forget everything that happened. And then it's kind of like new as I remember it. But one of the things that's happened is that I was kind of feeling a bit dejected, like a bit. It's not a great feeling knowing that you've failed the scenario, but then also that you can't do it again. Because usually we kind of finish on that high, and knowing that, but you kind of get over it and you get on with your week and et cetera, et cetera. I was kind of mostly over it until you just brought that back up then, and then we're like, now I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. We failed it. We've got to do it again. So
It,
it's kind of a bit shit.
it's been a bit like that. Like like you have, I don't know if people who follow sports quite heavily, if your team plays on the weekend and they lose really badly or whatever, it kind of puts you in a weird mood for the rest of the week sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Friday night games are the best or worst because they ruin or they make your weekend. So yeah, that's pretty much what it was happened.
So that's kind of what it feels like. It's like our team went in and didn't get the goods. And
Hmm.
now we kind of have to dwell on the whole week leading up to Friday where we have to talk about why they didn't get the goods.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the difference is I don't host a podcast where I talk about my team losing. So it's yeah, definitely a weird feeling.
So on today's episode, we're going to chat about the rocky road ahead with our playing and recording schedule. We have Scenario 45, Living Glacier, which is the one we failed. And we have a topic from a listener that we were meant to ask last week and talk about last week, which we definitely will this time. We're not going to run out of time for that. But yeah, the future. So it's not as scary and as bad as it sounds, right? The rocky
I mean,
road
I'm a
ahead.
bit worried now.
No. It's got nothing like that. So our friend Mark, who is I was about to say our bone shaper. No, he's our trap. He can't make the next Monday. Now he said ages ago in his interview episode or whatever it was that there will be the occasional Monday he can't make, and we were like, yeah, funny. That's a funny joke.
Yeah,
That doesn't happen in our group.
that wasn't in the terms and conditions. Like, when you apply for a job and they say, have you got any annual leave in the next 6 months? And you say no. And then 3 weeks in you say, oh, but I do.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of how
he
I felt.
forgot to tell us that he was driving all the way up to Queensland from Melbourne.
Hmm.
Now, if you're Australian, you know how long that drive is. How long is it? 17 hours?
I think something like that. Yeah. And that's if you go the whole way right like that.
Yes,
Yeah. It's
without braking or something. So he's driving there. He went up today, I believe, or yesterday, I can't remember, and he won't make it back in time. Essentially, he's going up there because he drives race cars, toy ones, like
sideways.
with a remote control, sideways over little dirt mounds and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's a I don't know, what do you call it, a tournament of something up there? Like,
I think it's whoever can do the best donuts, right?
that's right.
It's basically like just doing doughies in the paddock, but they go up to Queensland for it.
That's right. So he'll be up there, which means we won't be able to play on Monday without him. And look, he's given us his blessing and said, go for it. But, we're an awesome foursome. We don't want to do that. And I'm sure a lot of groups out there, you have to miss your occasional thing and you don't particularly want to play without, someone who's been there, well, not the whole time, but the most last month or two. So long story short, yes, we probably not going to play on the coming Monday. We're probably going to work through our solo scenarios and or something along those lines. We'll work that out. Now, in the near future after that, I then fly to Japan. So I'll be there for 3 weeks, which means that's 3 weeks we're not going to be able to basically play or record. And this is a holiday, and it's very, very selfish of me, especially
And
that
you
I'm
keep
leaving you guys
telling us that
behind.
you're not a bird bot, and then you're flying all the way to Japan. Like,
I'm not going to use birds. So it's got me thinking. We've got a few weeks in a row where we're going to be off schedule, and we're not going to be able to. We're gonna when market's back, the following week we're going to go back into a regular schedule for another week or two before I then fly out. So in the meantime, it's either we take an actual break, from everything, and we don't really put much out. But one of the things I was thinking of is there this is an opportunity for maybe some of our community, some of our listeners. If there's something that about the game Frosthaven or about anything else that you maybe want us to cover or discuss, any hot topics, anything for us to fight over, anything that we can sit there and sink our teeth in for an episode or two. Let us know, especially this early, because then it means that we can start maybe recording some content for those few weeks that I'm gone, so that I can have them, come out, and it'd be really cool. And one of the inspiration behind that is we actually got a topic last week, which I thought was really interesting, that I wanted to say last week and didn't. That is going to cause a bit of discussion with Gaz, and it's made me think. Well, if there's more of this, it'll actually be quite easy to cover a range of things when we can't actually play.
so are you going to be live from Japan?
I wasn't planning on it, but I might be able to. I don't know.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, maybe we'll see.
So not to give anybody too much of a glimpse of what happens behind the curtain, but what Daddy just talked about then, other than the fact that he's going away, is completely news to me. So how we're going to go about this and what we're going to do, I'm learning at the same point everyone else is learning. So yeah, come at us with some ideas, because I don't have any. So
Yeah, there you go, Gaz.
yeah.
There you go.
So
Keeping me
no,
on
just
your
get in touch
toes.
if you want us to talk about something. If you want to come on the podcast and host it with me, we'll get like guest hosts, and come in and we'll talk about your Frosthaven campaign and all that kind of crazy stuff. Who knows? Talk about
Look,
other games.
that day where we had Dwarf on and for the night, the three of us were recording in Discord, and after that one finished, Dwarf hung around for another hour, an hour and a half, or something like that. And Gaz and he started talking about RPGs. And it was just, I'm sitting there like, I don't know what's going on. Like, and the two of them were so excited. And Gaz was excited, and he was taking notes about things that he might have to get and maybe look into to play with his kids, and Dwarf DMs for his family, his kids, and their friends. And it sounded really cool, and I had no idea what was going on. So ultimately, you can just get him back, and
Yeah,
you can just
totally. I'm
continue
gonna hit
talking
him up
about.
and we'll just do Frosthaven the RPG cast. Yep. So
So last week, I asked the question, and it was to you, and then to the listeners: do we change the difficulty?
oh,
And
okay.
we thought about that, and I'm really glad we didn't,
Are you sure
because
we didn't?
this. Look, I think people who know scenario 45, like, I'm going to jump to the community part from what
Mm.
people were discussing. They said that it's actually a pretty hard scenario. Traditionally, it's quite hard. Not like 14 stupid. It's just known as being hard, kind of like maybe 10 hard.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm glad we didn't go, you know what, let's just bump this up by one level and see how we go with this, because it proved to be quite difficult in this.
Mm.
But in saying that, let's just jump straight into 45. So 45 is one of the branching ones in the Algox questline. There, after you've had your little meeting and you've gone down into the netherworld or whatever it is, and you completed that scenario, you come to a crossroads of two different paths, and you have to take both. And you need to grab two different artifacts or things. And the one we chose, well, I literally chose it only because it was the earlier one in numeral order, 45 and 46. And it's called the Living Glacier, and we actually had to get some kind of ancient ice, from there. So leading to it, and I had a question, and one of the questions was, well, according to the map, it's across some water. So do we have a boat event?
Mm.
And I couldn't find anything about that. And then decided, no, they'd have a boat symbol. It'd have to have a boat symbol. So we have to do a road event. And look, there's a lot of road before we get to the water area anyway. So we had a road event. And guys will not remember it.
No, I remember this one.
Oh,
Awkward,
yeah.
isn't it?
That's, look, awkward for multiple reasons because we've also had this one before.
Yeah, we had this one. We knew what was happening. I think I joked about having this one when we were talking about ones we've already had come up again. So we kind of knew exactly what to do.
But yeah, we'll amDirt roll that one as well.
Yep. Just say that money was exchanged for goods or services.
Services. So scenario 45's Living Glacier's scenario goal. The scenario is complete when the ancient ice has been retrieved. All characters, and then comma, all characters occupy tile 14A, which is the starting tile, which is our scenario 22 boat tile, or have been exhausted on this tile, right? And no enemies also occupy that tile. At the end of that, we read a thing. And the minute I saw that and heard that part, I immediately was thinking it was reminding me of a heist. It was reminding me of, the cars pulled outside the bank. We got to push our way through, grab something, and while the alarm's going off and everything's chasing us and all that kind of stuff, quickly get back to the car and drive off. And that's essentially kind of what it was in a nutshell. So, Special Rules Part 1, if anyone becomes exhausted while not occupying 14A, which is the start tile, the scenario is lost.
Yep.
Our monster combinations in this were bale herders, which was really cool because we hadn't seen them outside of scenario 14.
Yep.
And it was cool to see them again because we did our tier list recently and we based them off that one scenario where I think they had potential. I don't even remember where they sat. Did they sit in annoying?
I think we put them annoying, but fine.
Yeah. So bale herders, we had a bale scouts. Now we have not seen these yet. So these are the counterparts of the bale herders. And from memory, these were just very rangy and very poisony.
They're shit.
And you don't like them?
Oh, I mean, no, they're fine. They're just tough. They do lots of damage and they attack at range and multiple targets and poison. Like, it's just gross.
It is. It's kind of like I don't know, like night. What are they called? Black imps, night imps. One of those.
Yeah, they're kind of like archers that hit less hard, but more targets. I don't know. They're a problem.
And then we had our lightning eels again, and we had piranha pigs. So it was basically scenario 14 mobs with the addition of scouts, but on a ship, which was interesting.
And knowing that we had because when you set it up, you set up the boat tile and you set up the water tile. So like the starting tile where your boats are, and then the corridor. And because the corridor was for water, I have actually just gotten the 3-tick perk on my crab that gives me advantage if I'm in water or the target's in water. So I changed my cards around a little bit and went like, all right, cool. Let's start taking advantage of water a little bit more. And it was pretty cool for bits.
Yeah. So at the very start, I think we had a plan. Now we had Mark on his brand new trap. Yep. Now something I need to say, because every time I put this on YouTube and I have the words going across the screen, for the levels, for the last 2 videos, I've been saying Phil's level 4, and Dwarf's actually been asking me, he's like, oh, you guys level really fast. Like, oh, no, it's good. He's just leveling really quickly. Like, for the last few scenarios, Phil is actually level 3, and I keep saying he's 4. And in fact, going into this scenario, he's still level 3. So he's level 3 meteor. I need to make that just a little bit clearer because, yeah, we are not leveling that fast.
Yep.
He is still level 3. So we had Phil and Mark, both with their traps and lava and all that kind of stuff, sitting on the original tile to deal with these scouts.
Yeah, there was like 2 scouts and a fish.
Yeah, and a pig, yeah. And then Gaz and I, we had Crabflake going up into the corridor with the water, which had the herder, lightning eels, and more fish, pigs.
Yep.
And it was a really interesting, I don't know, first couple of turns, really, because it shouldn't have been competitive, but with our group, it kind of ends up that way. And we had the shit talk coming from the 2 guys in the boat saying that they'd cleared theirs. They're easy 3 enemies. Mind you, when we had a peek at the boat was on fire. because of all the
Yeah.
crap that was going on down there. And then yeah, we began to make our way up top, and it was, look, I'm not gonna lie, this corridor sucked, just absolutely sucked.
Yeah, it was pretty squishy and it was tricky as well because like the pigs do so much damage. Like I think you birds turn one and
Uh,
or
Probably,
turn
yeah.
two. Might have been turn two. But like the idea was I was gonna get right in there and just kind of, get around them and kind of tank them a bit. But the cards they were drawing was like attacks fours and fives because those like piranha pigs hit really hard. And it just made it really tricky because we kind of got boxed in at the start.
You're right,
Of
because their pull effectively changed your first round, because you were
yeah,
planning on
yeah,
going in the middle, and then you were
yeah,
like, well,
exactly. And I looked, I'm like, well, I'm not jumping in to take like 16 damage. That's just stupid.
you didn't have it
Um,
set up yet.
Pardon?
You weren't set up for it yet.
Yeah, and they weren't moving either. So it was it's always tricky when you look at the draw and you go, okay, well, they've drawn an attack five and they're not moving, so they're not hitting anything. I don't need to move in to get hit, right?
Mm,
Like if they are moving, then you want to make sure you move so that you tank it. But if they're not moving, then you're like, well, there's zero damage at the moment. I don't want to move into a position that I'm going to take five more. So
mm.
it kind of got a bit awkward, and we got boxed in a little bit, which made it a bit trickier to then move forward. So plus
Because
half the corridor is full of water. So
it's full of water, and then yeah, the herder at range, you got the eels in the water. I think they were also pulling an early stun or something like that. That also scared us off a little bit. There was just a mixture of unfortunate things that were happening in the first room. That
yeah,
not from a we got booked point of view, but it just kind of messed up our plans, and we had to then sort of recalibrate almost what we were or how we were going to approach this.
yeah, it took us maybe a turn or two longer than it should have, but we didn't take heaps of damage. I think it just drained a little bit more resources, right? Like it made us go a bit slower,
Yeah, yeah.
which was okay. But yeah, in the end, I think uh, that room was kind of, I mean, it did pretty much exactly what the room's designed to do, right? Slow you down, wear you down, um, make it harder for everyone to kind of move through.
And I think this would have been mistake, or not so much mistake, but like a change for the next time we do this. Was I was in there with you, which is good, right? Which is fine. I don't do a great deal of damage at the moment without hazardous terrain and things to put things in,
Mm,
and there were none there. And I also didn't really want to put anything down because it was literally a 2 tile and a 1 tile width, due to the water in there, because it's a 3 tile wide corridor,
mm.
and the whole one side's completely flooded, and then occasionally every couple of tiles there's another one that's entering in, and I was like, I don't know how much I really want to flood this with my own hazardous terrain, because our media was burning the boat with all of his. So I think that was the first thing that I've kind of gone, oh, I'm not offering Gaz a lot up here, in terms of helping him with the occasional, a punt, or yeah, and that. So that was a little bit awkward, and that's why I was like, oh, it was a horrendous corridor, just mostly due to the water, because the water at the end of the day is an overlay tile that takes up an overlay tile spot, meaning that nothing else can go there,
That's the
which
thing
is
with the
fine.
water. Even though I can make use of the water, and I think I need to re-look at some of the cards I've got to see if I can make even more use of it. But that's the thing I found with the water. It wasn't so much that it slows you down, which is a pain, but it's that we have three of the four characters in our party want to put like tiles down, right? Four if you include me with water, but I don't need to put it there if it's already there, right? So it really did make it a bit trickier to work it out. So yeah, it wasn't that the water was getting in the way of us moving around; it was getting in the way of actually like putting things down and pushing and pulling through it. So
Yeah. Eventually, the cavalry did arrive. One of the annoying things about this was because of the piranha fish pigs, because they're fairly tanky with the amount of health they have, and they do a fair bit of damage. And of course, they're also working off the herder as well.
mm,
You and I were really struggling to take out that herder, um, because we probably needed ranged attacks to be able to do it. Something that I don't see you do a lot of. And
I
I
have
was,
zero.
okay, good. Then I was right, and I was getting pushed back by these piranha pigs, and it just became awkward because we know that the herders are something that needs to die. They're the ones that are going to spawn more piranha pigs, and they're the ones that are going to work off them. They have a really good synergy. And unfortunately, yeah, there was just a lot of not a lot happening until Phil and Mark came. And then we actually got to, overpower and actually make some progress and finally start to clear out that room. So yeah, it definitely, like you said, was eating into a lot of resources. And, I think we have a much clearer picture of at least what to change in that first instance.
Yeah, definitely. And I managed to, because my battle goal, which I'm going to talk about because we don't get to get them now, but was to kill something and open a door. So I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and opened that. But I think there was only one thing left by the time I did that anyway.
Yeah.
It was going to die. So yeah, we got through it all and we got in. And we were probably in pretty good nick, I reckon, other than maybe being a little bit further back.
Yeah. I do know that I played a few more heal cards this time. Oh, also, I should note that I was oohing and ahhing over bringing my dog, and I eventually decided to bring my dog, thinking that it was going to be a really good thing to have in the corridor with Gaz, so that it was putting out some consistent damage. And due to the way that everything was positioned in that room and the water, the dog got killed, and that made me incredibly sad. So I ended up doing some healing on the guys because we were recuperating in that thing while Gaz opened up the door, and then we basically birdsed in. Now, one of the issues with birds that I've mentioned in the past is it doesn't grant me the +2 movement and jump, so I only get the 3 movement, which meant that I was kind of stuck in the corridor a little bit while everyone was making their way through, and they actually went quite deep into the room because there, lo and behold, we have the ice pillar, the
Yeah.
ancient ice, and it's got something like 48 health or something like that, and it can be damaged. It's basically an enemy to us, and we can damage it. And once it's been destroyed, that counts as us getting the ancient ice, right? And then we have to book it out of there. And this room that everyone had just gone into had the most annoying looking obstacles where it was like it literally halved the room, but then like horseshoed around the thing that we needed to get to.
Yeah, like the doorway's got water in front of it, which everything crowded around and blocked. But then past that, there's rocks which shield the ice thing that you have to run around to get to. So, I mean, having +2 and jump to all your movements and having you played a good movement card and being able to birds in there made it heaps easy, except for those that don't get the birds effect, like you. So,
which which is me. So when
yeah.
everyone did go in, and I just want to say, the scenario design, whoever does this, I know why you did it. It's obviously the harder thing to do. You could have reversed the situation and put the opening of where the frozen thing was on right next to the door. That would have been much easier. But no, it had to be in the most awkward spot for all of us to get to.
Yeah.
And everyone goes in, jumps over, and the next minute I'm realizing that for monster focus, the piranha pigs that everyone bounced over are now going to head into the corridor where I am and kind of, lock me out. So I then realized while everyone was inside, I spent more time focusing on trying to play Distract Flake in the corridor by, distracting the piranha pigs from going after you guys and coming after me in the second room with a bunch of CC, which was fine.
Yeah, well, like that's what we found, and we noticed it, I think, in the last scenario or 2 scenarios ago. But being able to put the hazardous terrain basically allows us to control where monsters go. And I think when we all kind of came in, Mark ran by and chucked 2 traps down, which blocked off one edge of it. Phil threw his giant fire schlong out and blocked off another path. So basically, we were in where the ice thing was, but we were kind of surrounded by difficult terrain or the hazardous terrain in some
Yeah.
sense. So all the mobs were like, "Oh, well, we don't want to go that way, so we're going to go fight you." So it
Yeah.
was the timing and the draws were a bit awkward because I think as I opened the door and I finished on the door when I opened it because I wanted to do my battle goal. Everything moved up to the doorway, so
Mm,
that just meant that everything it was kind of like we were stuck there,
mm,
and if that's what made that a little bit trickier.
mm.
Um, but I mean, I guess the plan we had at that stage was like, well, if we can get in there and just burn this thing down, we can then get back out.
That's
And
true.
I mean, that's kind of what we did, and we just got a little bit unlucky.
Yeah. It's it's rough because I got to watch as I was out there dealing with my stuff. It was kind of like I was trying to watch what I was going on my side and then trying to pay attention to what was going on inside. And it was like, all right, we need to blow this thing up. It's got 48 health. All right, I did 2 damage. All right, okay, you did 2 damage. Oh, this is gonna take a while.
Mm.
And it was like you're used to having these hard hitting death walkers and bone hordes and all that to do these giant chunks of damage and be perfect for something like this. And yeah, it was
Yeah, well,
noticeable.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that we've talked up birds and how having the snowflake has made a whole bunch of scenarios we've done recently a lot easier. With moving things, moving allies, giving allies jump, all those kind of stuff. Like even just pushing and pulling and healing and all that kind of stuff. Like having that support character. But now we have 3 of the 4 characters really want monsters to stand on hazardous terrain or traps, and we have to fight an inanimate object, right? That we can't do that with. So that just instantly means that whole damage kind of tree is out of the equation, and
Yeah.
that meant that we had to just focus on basically like just playing attack twos.
And yeah, the creatures that were in there, you guys were blowing them up, right? Obviously, due to the hazardous terrain and the pushing and pulling and the traps and the heal traps. Oh my god, the heal traps and blessed traps. I think did he do a blessed trap? I think he blessed filled, right? I
No,
can't
I got it.
remember.
He
Oh, you
chucked it
got
down,
it.
and so that was the other thing that slowed it down a little bit. By the time I got in there, I think I got hit really hard for some reason. So I dropped lower and I had a wound on me. And Phil started to get really worried, right? Because if we exhaust not on the boat, we lose. So he was like, I was on like 3 or 4 health. And he's like, oh no. Like, what are you going to do? Like, have you got a heal? I was like, oh, I think I just discarded my heal or burnt my heal, like when I rested. So he was getting really worried, and then I found an out. Like, so I got this item from a chest a couple of weeks ago, or maybe it was last week. But basically, whenever I discard a card from damage, not discard, burn a card, like burn a card for taking damage, right? I can draw a card back from my discard pile, but also I gain regen. So I think I took like a hit of like 1 or 2. I burnt the card, got myself regen, and then moved out of the way. So I was like, wow, big play here because now I can just regen myself back up. But that cost like 2 rounds of me attacking
Yeah. Okay.
because I didn't have the chance. So, and when it came down to it, we were only 1 or 2 damage away from like a whole extra turn and getting out. So I think that's one of the things that made it a bit tricky was that we got there, and then me and Mark had to do like a bit of a switcheroo where I had to move and he had to move just so that we could kind of like not die.
Mm.
And that again made it a bit trickier. And we had one of the bale herders standing off to the side. We're just praying that they didn't draw their railgun card or something like that.
Because Mark was running around on like 8 health or something, 7 health,
That's
I
full for
think.
him.
Yeah, he was running around on 7 health, and he was almost getting one shot by things. There was
Yeah.
a part where he unfortunately did get hit, and I think he had 2 cards in his discard. The trap has 9 cards as a hand limit, right? So when he had to discard 2 cards to negate that, that was brutal for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. And then it became, oh, Mark, maybe you should leave, and Phil and Gaz can finish it, and Mark can start working his way towards the door, and then back in the hallway where I'm at,
Yeah.
just so we can get back onto the ship. It's like you're in your lounge room, and the dog is going, "Huh, huh, huh," and you're like, okay, and you got to quickly get him out onto like the kitchen floor or something. So if you're gonna puke anywhere, you do it here. It's like Mark.
If you're
If you're
gonna
gonna
die anywhere,
die,
die on the
die
boat.
on the
Yeah.
boat.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what it came down to, actually, didn't it? It was just like we were pretty sure we could get everything done. We just needed to make sure that if anyone was going to die, they were dying on the boat. And And that's really where we got stuck in the end. But yeah, it was. He bailed out to try and get there. We found there's a really bad synergy, like opposite of synergy, whatever that is, between his heel traps and birds. Because it was twice that he was like, he put a heel trap down and then he wanted to go collect it, but being that he has jump, it was one square away. He couldn't collect it on the way through. So
Mm,
that kind of that was a bit funny to watch. But yeah, there was a few instances where like, okay, you're done. You got to go.
yeah.
And I mean, I can't imagine playing a character with with 9 cards. Like I think like it seems really interesting. Like I'm not dissing the character at all. I've only seen it for one scenario, so it seems really cool. But 9 cards, no, no, I can't do it. That's just gross.
Too
Like,
stressful.
it's just. I think I remember playing is it the Spellweaver in Gloomhaven? That
Yeah, they have 8 cards, right?
yeah, but you have a card that gives you all your cards back.
Or he might have a trap that does that.
Maybe he has a trap that says get all your cards back. But either way, it's just so and 7 health. Like, yeah, it's really he's gonna have to play really, really carefully because
Yeah.
he has the high likeliness of just exhausting super quickly.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he came pouring into the hallway where I was at, and I was like, "Oh, did you get it?" And he was like, "Quick, run!" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So we started running, and then I think you and Phil were exchanging blows and trying to stay alive on the thing. I think Phil was the next one to be like, "I gotta go," and he kind of
Yeah,
left.
what it basically came down to is me and Phil were there. I was like, look, he hit it, and he's like, should I go? Because I think he had a jump or something like that, and I was like, yeah, you go because I need to hit it this turn, and I'll hit it next turn, and I should kill it. I think actually we looked at it. We needed to do, I think 4 damage between us, maybe it was,
Mm,
and so we just had to draw zeros, and I think he drew a -1.
yeah,
So it was like, okay, now I have to draw a +1 to match him, and I think I drew a -1 as well. So
yeah,
it was like, oh god, okay. So this thing that was on 4 health, we attacked it twice and did 2 damage. So I was like, look, I'll kill it next turn, or I'll kill it the turn after. It doesn't really matter. And so he jumped off and jumped out, and then I did the same thing. Now, what really screwed us was that the next turn you played birds. I had to move 4 that I used, so I would have had move 6 plus. I get move +1 because one of my tie cards, so I would have moved 7. So I was going to hit it and just get the hell out of there. I think I drew my -2.
yeah. Okay.
So I was like, this. So basically, that meant that wasted that big move, which in the whole scheme of things and where I
It
ended up,
wasted your whole round.
yeah, basically the whole round. It's like, okay, well, I hit it for nothing, and then I stand here. So it was just a little bit of bad luck. Not the reason we lost it, but there was just like kind of it delayed us another turn. So that's where, yeah, that's just where we spent a lot of time just trying to burn this thing down. I mean, in the other side is we did a lot of damage to it in a couple of bursts, so it wasn't all bad.
No.
But yeah, it was a little bit of a I don't know, a pain in the ass. Like it's like I just want to kill this thing. It's on so low.
Well, then you eventually did, right? It was either the round after or whatever, or
Yeah.
while we're still making our way through the corridor and trying to get Mark's corpse on the ship, as he was nearly about to vomit, and that spawns the rule, right? There's a rule
Mm.
where along the way there's all these numbered or lettered tokens littered throughout the whole scenario, which there was nothing that alluded to any of it at all, which meant that it was obviously something bad. And the second that the thing died, we read a section and it was like, cool, spawn 2 elites here, spawn 2 there, spawn 1 there, 1 there. And next minute, the ship had like 4 things on it, and the corridor had a whole bunch of eels and other
Oh,
things on it
eels were everywhere. It was gross.
everywhere. And it was like, okay, cool. This is that moment in the movie where you're trying to flee a ship that's like a airplane that's on fire that's about to crash into a mountain, and we're all trying to get to the parachutes, and the parachute's the boat. And watching Gaz coming down the corridor with eels everywhere and timing. I mean, you would know this so well because of what happened to you, but how many things went your way and how many things didn't go your way when you would. I'll get rid of the part where I basically pushed Mark onto the ship.
No, no, no. Don't ignore that. That was a massive play. And if we had won, right, and we were very close to winning, if we had won, that would have been one of like one or two super clutch moments, right? So let's paint the scene for people, okay? Because this was really, really important. So Mark had two cards left. Okay, so basically he had one turn, and he couldn't get onto the boat. I think he was going to land on the stairs on the boat, which
Oh
we were
yeah,
talking about are the stairs part of the boat. Now the rules say you have to be on tile, whatever it is, 44B
14A,
or pardon.
14A.
14A, right? Now, the stairs are like a doorway between the boat and the corridor. So we were like, no, that's not really the boat. Like, yes, while it's stairs and stairs are part of the boat, it's not part of the tile. So we were going to rule no, you have to be in. And he didn't have enough movement to make it. So then comes along Daddy. He's like, well, what about birds? But the problem was Mark couldn't move onto there. But Daddy was like, oh, wait, hang on. Bird says you get +2 to your move abilities. And Daddy also has a top that allowed him
The
to,
grant
to
to
move,
move, yeah, 3
right?
attack.
So what ended up happening is you basically just yeeted this small little vermling halfway across the map onto the boat, onto one of the tiles on the boat so that he could die. He just basically threw him, right? And then he just carked it. But we're like, tick.
Yeah, yeah,
Objective met, tick. And that was the first one because when we thought Mark couldn't make it, like me and Phil were still well in the other room. We're like, oh, well, if he can't make it, then we don't continue, right? There's no point continuing because you're going to die. Wait, hang on. This means we can. And so he got across. We're like, okay, we're through that hurdle, right? Now we've got to get us two onto the boat.
yeah.
And sorry, you're going to say something about the things that went wrong.
So yeah, I shoved. We we had our side of what we had to deal with. I just had to get my ass onto the ship, and I started helping Phil out because Phil made his way onto the ship as well, generally unscathed. And the two of us then had to deal with the things that had spawned on the thing, and I was down to like nothing. I had very little cards left, so because I was short resting a lot to get birds up for all the movement that everyone needed throughout that whole thing. So I basically only lasted another round or two and exhausted. And then it was like Phil versus like two or three of these things. And mind you, the boat is still on fire from Phil. Like he's still got his stuff all over the place. And there's actually some traps still on the board from when Mark started um, just prepping and putting them all over the place. So there was a lot of stuff going on. And Phil had to organize just very cleverly his placement of where he's going to go because the scouts hit very hard and had to deal with them. So eventually I was like, when we saved Mark, I was like, before we did, I was like, oh, we're done, we're cooked, we can't win this, just like you said. And when he made it, it was like, oh well, how are we going to clear all that? We're not going to clear all the guys on the boat. Remember, that's one of the victory conditions. You have to clear all the guys on the boat. Phil ticked that off as well,
Yeah.
right?
So we
Then it just
had
came down to getting the last person on.
Yeah, well, that's it. So Phil had planned on getting onto the boat and then realizing that he couldn't make it, and then something else, and he's like, "Oh no!" And then he looked at his cards. He's like, "Oh, I think I might have accidentally chosen the perfect cards for this." So he managed to get himself close to the boat and then throw his eruption thing because he loves erupting all over the place. And he threw this eruption at the back of the boat. And it was again, such a clutch explosion because it hit like I think two of the things that were there did pure damage, put fire everywhere, and basically meant that they had to walk through at least two hazardous terrain to get to anyone.
Mm,
So I think by the end of that explosion, he had like two of the three things that spawned on the boat on like half life. And then
yeah.
they moved and took like another, like they're almost dead by the time. And so that basically, again, like you were saying, it's like, oh, yeah, we're going to get there, but we're all going to have no cards left. He's like, oh, well, what if there's no monsters left, right? It's
Mm,
like, okay, I guess maybe that's another thing that's ticked. So yeah,
mm-hmm.
it was like oh, okay, maybe we can do this.
Yeah, and then all eyes went to Gaz.
Uh,
Because Gaz's paint a picture is 2/3 of the way away from the ship in the corridor. He still needs to traverse through all of the eels. There were just eels everywhere. I don't know if there was any piranha pigs in there as well,
yes,
but
there was, yep.
oh, okay.
So, okay, so the first mistake I made, right? Okay, because this all comes down to a little bit of bad luck and also some bad decisions. Okay, so I already mentioned that I wasted my really big move because I missed, or basically missed, by drawing my -2. Mind you, if I had drawn my miss, I could have used my potion that ignores the miss, and it would have hit, and it would have been better. So my miss would have been better. The
-2 is the
-2 was
worst thing.
literally the only card because I was
Yeah.
doing it in hack 3. The only card I think that was going to stop it. So anyway, let's ignore that for now. So the first thing I stuffed up was that I thought I was playing a move 3 card because Daddy had played birds. So I thought I was playing a move 3 card, which mean it would give me 5. I was going to land next to a piranha pig. I was going to push it into a trap. It was going to die. Right. And then that would have meant that I was into the corridor and I had nothing around me. Instead, I played a move 2, which put me 1 away from the piranha pig. I couldn't push it. It then moved forward and smacked me for 5, right? And gave me wound, right? So cool, great. That's not as good as the way that I had planned it out. So that was on me. I chose poorly. I ended up getting past that and moving to a position where I had to long rest because I had to get cards back. And I was looking at my cards, going like, okay, I think I can still make this. It should be fine. And I moved forward. I moved to a position where only 1 eel could hit me. I was on 2 health, right? So I'm on 2 health. Only 1 eel would hit me. Now I have 5 cards at this stage. 2 in my discard, 3 in my hand. Well, 1 in my tide, 2 in my hand that I'd played. So I'm like, I need to, because I've got jump boots, right? So I need to move here. I need to long rest to get my boots back and then jump on my way to victory, right? That was the plan. So I killed that piranha pig. I rested. So all had gone fine to a degree, right? And then the 1 eel hit me.
He with a
Drew,
+2 or
pardon?
something like that. I think he drew a +2
No,
or
no, no, no,
something.
no. I was on 2. He needed to. I have 1 shield. No, I have 2 shield. 2 shield when I rest. So he just needed a 0 or lower,
Yeah, okay.
right? He drew a 0,
Yeah.
but I have retaliate too.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And this was the
Retaliate.
1 eel out of like the 8 eels that had taken damage. And it was on 2 life.
That's right.
And it was number 1 eel.
Yeah.
So it died, which meant that there was an empty space for
For
another
another
eel to come along. So that eel then went into that spot and drew, and unfortunately did not draw a 0 and drew, I think, like a +2. So at that stage, I'm like, okay, I need to discard. Now, I couldn't discard out of my hand because they were the 2 cards that I played, or the 2 cards I needed to get out there. So I discarded the 2 cards that
in
were
your
in my
discard.
discard pile, right? Unfortunately, one of those cards was the move 3 that I needed in order to get onto the boat. So while I did survive and I had my turn, right, my next turn, I was 1 move away. So I couldn't jump far enough and have enough cards to survive because I only ended up with 3 cards. So, like I said, poor decisions, a little bit of bad luck. I don't think I could have played it differently. I did go over it in my head a lot of trying to figure out if I could have made it work. And I mean, I won't say I couldn't because I was tired and there was a lot going on. So I won't say I was out of answers. But
So
yeah, it was
is it
very close.
is it fair to say if, all right, if retaliate is optional, would we have won that?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
So I'm
because I get hit for
waiting to
because I get hit for
waiting.
0, can't get attacked again. My jump boots are back up, and I jump onto the boat next turn with 5 cards. Well, after my I
Yeah,
discard a card,
yeah, okay.
and yeah,
Waiting to get told that it's optional, even though this is something I probably could have looked up. I think we were just all like, I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I think the whole thing was I think we looked it up the week before where I didn't want to
For a battle
retaliate something
goal.
because I didn't want to kill stuff. I think I might have read that retaliate isn't optional when I also read that you get the credit for it. So yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. There was a lot that we could do differently. I'm not going to claim at all that we got screwed by RNG, but there definitely was some clutch moments where it went both ways.
What were your overall thoughts from Scenario 45?
Like it feels like scenario 14, but done well.
Like,
Like
yeah, I'll pay that.
it had an element of like what I really liked about this one, and I'll probably talk more about it in a couple of weeks. And if we lose it again, then this might change my tune, and I'll just say I hate this one, right? But it's it has an element of go slow, then it has an element of go fast, right? And again, it lets you set the tempo a little bit.
Yeah.
Again, it the spawns are fine, even though there's lots of them, and you're probably not killing everything that spawned. But it wasn't that inevitable unlimited spawn that just meant you just burnt cards to get to the end, right? Like again, it was still like, okay, there's only this much on the map, so killing things in the right place might get them out of the way. So it
Mm,
didn't feel like this the 14 or the pillars one where we had to just rush to the end. Those ones where it was just like, oh whatever, just ignore the monsters and just run. Okay, this felt like we need to know what's there, and killing them is actually useful because it's
yeah.
like again, you want to be effective and optimal with your cards, so you don't want to just throw damage out on things that you're not going to kill. But if you're going to kill something, then it's worth it. So I think it felt really cool, and I think like you summed it up at the start, like it does feel like a bit of a heist. And what's cool about knowing this one is I don't think knowing this one solves it. Whereas we've done a couple in the past that we've repeated, and it's almost like, oh, okay, we know what we need to do now, and that's super easy. Not super
Mm,
easy, but you know what we need to do, so we can kind of go, well, let's just go straight there. We know where something's going to spawn, or we know what's going to happen. Whereas at this one, we're still going to have to figure out how to do it.
it's a scenario that I really loved. I actually really, really rate this, and I think it's well designed. I think it's very thematic and very yeah. It's like GTA, in heists, the heist from GTA 5. Right, this is how my brain works, and it was like robbing a bank almost. It had so much intensity involved, especially that tension that was riding when everyone's trying to leave that corridor to get onto the ship. Everyone's getting out with the bag, the bag of cash. Um, that felt really, really, really cool and really tense. I haven't felt that level of tension since the nail biting one we did with Scenario 10,
Yeah.
where
Yep.
it was those last few. We were all eyeing every card that was being flipped, whether it be ours, whether it be the monster ones. Like we were all just clenching, because especially when it came down to you. But it was every moment that was
Mm.
leading up to that of trying to, like you said, tick off those things that we needed to. Those little side objectives that kept popping up and going. Now you have to help Mark. Now you have to clear the boat. It was very, very cool, and it
Yeah.
felt like everyone had roles to play in that. Now that we've got not a we walk, we hit group, it gives us a lot of flexibility with our roles. We could play that very differently. We could probably replay that 5 times and try 5 different ways of clearing it. And I like that. I really just think it's really cool. It's actually what I'm looking forward to doing again.
Mm. Yeah, look, I am. It just sucks that we got so close and have to redo it, right? Like, if we gotten totally booked in that second or third room, then you go, yeah, okay, cool, let's do it again. But because we were just so close, like so close. But look,
You should
it
have
the
turned off your Atelier, Gaz. Just,
yeah, I should have turned
click
off my
that buff
retaliate.
off.
Yep, no, I know. So, I don't actually think I can though because it's not a persistent card, so I can't choose for it to not be out because tide cards only come back when you rest.
And you rested heaps.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying though, like as in I that was one of the things I thought of. I'm like, oh, I should have looked at that and gone like, oh, but I needed the shield from it. So anyway, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole
We
again.
didn't think that far ahead. We didn't go that deep, right? You didn't think, oh, what happens if the one eel on 2 health hits me and then dies and then brings in another
No,
one?
100% I
When it
didn't. But that's
happened, it was that moment, that
I
penny
went
drop.
down that rabbit
Oh,
hole of thinking that I should have thought of that, right? So
oh
yeah,
no.
that's no. It's but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to doing it again, and I think luckily because we are having this break of a week, it won't be as bad because it won't be setting it back up and just cracking right back into it. It might feel like, all right, cool. Well, we've had a little bit of a break. Like we're having another go at this.
Yeah.
We'll now get a chance to go through it and lose again.
We'll forget by then. And
Yeah,
then you're like, how do we win this again? Oh, that's
pretty much.
right.
Well, we
Yeah,
can just go back and listen to this episode.
that's true.
So
Um, Another thought, there were no flying mobs for something different. That was really nice. I did enjoy that. Flying mobs on this one would have been hell with all the water and all the
Yeah.
obstacles and all that kind of stuff. Um, thoughts on the trap?
I was just gonna say I don't want to say too much because I
No,
haven't seen it all that much, but I
no.
would say that I thought that especially Mark and Phil worked really well together in that first room to plan and get everything to move through stuff. You struggled a bit because of you not being around them, but I also think that there was some good times where you've moved some things around. So I can see why people say there is a really good synergy between those three classes.
Mm,
And I think it's just going to be scenario dependent.
mm.
Like, as long as it's a scenario that we have the space to do it, I think it's going to be really effective.
Yep,
And it is just going to take a lot of communication from you guys, though.
yep.
Because, I mean, like we kind of found the one before where you didn't put much difficult terrain down.
Mm-hmm.
I think Mark's going to be able to put those extra pieces down, build them up, do some things with them while Phil's throwing fire everywhere, and you can focus on pushing and pulling. Like
Yep.
you're not going to have to throw any any hazardous terrain out.
No, no, you're
So,
right.
but
I'm
you're
looking
going to
forward
have
to
to be in
doing
a position
more.
where you can do it. Like you're almost like the you're the payoff, right? Like
Yeah.
you're the one you're going to be scoring the touchdown at the end because they're just going to be throwing everything out, and you're going to be the one doing it all. So that's where that coordination is going to be real important.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to obviously fleshing it out a little bit more. Not having Phil by my side at the start was a bit weird because we've been doing that for so many scenarios now. It's been feeling really good. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. How would Ormi go on this?
Oh, no, Omi's fucked.
He's in a lot of trouble because
He's in
even
so
if he
much trouble.
survives and makes his way halfway down the corridor, and then we start going back, he's
Yep.
dead. He's
Yep.
no way he survives that.
Yep. The only possible way that I think Omi is going to make it through that is if somebody stays on the boat with him to make sure they protect him and he doesn't leave the boat.
I mean, I could do that. I could just pull him back and then force him to move and face the
Mm.
wall and then push him back. I don't know. Like, but no, that's stupid.
Yeah. Well, I reckon this has got to be one of the worst Omi scenarios. Yeah.
So hopefully someone out there got it. That would be amazing.
Poor souls.
Um, community wise, like I said, universally seen as a hard scenario, especially with two people.
Oh, this is
Um,
gross as two people. Nah.
mm,
The
I
fact that
think
this is like a main story one as well, like
you get
that's
fewer
Isaac hates people
mobs.
playing
You
his
get fewer
games.
mobs, but yeah, it seems especially quite rough.
Yeah.
And I've read that people have played multiple versions of it, and then yeah, just cracked it. So yeah. Now, battle goals I have not put down here. I don't even remember what I had, because we did fail. So I wasn't too sure whether or not that was something we were going to go into. But if you remember yours and you want to,
Mine was just kill a monster and open a door, which
oh
I
yeah,
kind of only had one opportunity to do and I did it, but
mm.
uh doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, actually, that's something I did want to say. We've actually gone back and reset the Battle Gold deck. So
Mm.
we've reached a point where we didn't have enough cards to give out. And we also said when Mark was going to retire his Bone Shaper and jump on the trap, we were going to reset the Battle Gold
Yep.
cards again because we're going to need some of those perks early. And by making it so difficult, it was just really like we already do that enough
Yep.
as it is. So we're just harming ourselves.
Yep. Well, I actually pulled the three I had to choose from were all two tickers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had that one. I had the
I didn't know that
slowpoke
was a two
one
ticker.
of don't move more than two squares.
Jeez, no.
That's why I looked at it and I was like, oh, I could do it. I've done it before. But I looked at the objective and I'm like, this is going to be one that we're going to have to book it at the end. And when they're like, quick, hurry onto the boat, I'm like, my legs don't know how to make me go very fast. And you're like, I'll use birds. I'm like, I'm not really going to do that. Like, I thought it'd become really obvious. So, and I think the other one was something about killing something, but I can't remember what it was.
Mhm. Our DPS meters, I have also not tallied and tracked again. When we failed it, I was just like, oh, I was gonna grab all those and total those up. I did take a photo and send it to Mark so he could make a nice graph out of it, but he was like, do you really want this? Also, Phil didn't add it up at the end. So Mark didn't want to add it up, and then I didn't want to add it up. So
Everything fell to pieces by the
yeah.
end. So maybe what we can do next week is we can add up the DPS and we can just compare. So we can do the DPS
Yeah.
meters for both of our runs and
Yep.
just see what a victory run looks like compared to when we didn't and see
Yep.
what the difference was.
That's very fair. All right. Dirtbag. Dirtbag. So Alex has actually messaged us a little while back, and he actually just threw it at me, which I'm now going to throw it at you. And we're going to throw it at each other and at us. Also, as an extra topic of conversation, what do you and Gaz think of the items in Frosthaven so far? Are they balanced / interesting? Anything you'd change, particularly with crafting / distilling?
Oh god, this is like a whole episode.
It doesn't have to be.
Wow, I mean, I guess yeah, they're fine. There we go, done.
Okay.
Do you want more? Like, no, it's okay. So I think there's a couple of things to unpack. Firstly, just the items in general. So ignoring the crafting, distilling component of it, just like the items we've seen and their power level and how they operate.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I like them better than Gloomhaven because so far I haven't found anything that's busted. I'm sure there are, and people, you don't have to tell me that there's these items that are busted because I'm sure that there are still ones. But stam potions were like completely busted in like Gloomhaven, and they were like you bought them from the start.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the way that they've toned down the items, like the helmet that you get, instead of it making you immune to crits, makes them +1s. Some of the armor, it's not as good as it was in Gloomhaven from the very start. Like they've just made the items crapper, and then I imagine you work up as you uncover more buildings and unlock more recipes.
They're not as straightforward, I guess, with how useful they may or may not be, which I think is a good thing. It's not a flat out. You look at Gloomhaven items, and I for the life of me can't remember most of them. But little things like this one, you can turn this into a stun, or you can turn this into a,
Yep.
those kind of ones that are fairly straightforward and really quite strong, or the ones that it's not just I found this item. Whenever you want on your turn at range 5, throw a fireball that does 6 damage. It's not straightforward like that. They're incredibly niche. If something comes up to you, there's an item that, if something walks up to you adjacent to you, you automatically can push them one way as an armor piece. I've seen it. I don't know the specific one, but it's kind of like, but if you're a character that wants things next to you, you don't want to wear that. They're mandatory, a lot of them, which definitely adds to the way you play and pick and choose, what you want to bring, which I have found very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with I mean, this might lead into the conversation on the crafting and the distilling, but I think the how toned down a lot of the craftable items are makes the items you get from the random chest that much cooler
Mm,
as well. Like they seem to be pretty cool, and most of the ones we've gotten have been pretty good,
yeah.
but not pretty good as just like do extra damage to everything, right? Like Mark got his boots that every time you went late in the initiative, you healed one, and that was perfect for him. Um, this amulet I've got is great for me, right?
Mm,
Like being able to burn a card, return a discarded pile, and get regen is great. Like that's
yeah.
a really good combo. Even one of the ones that I think we got, which Mark's ended up buying, is the on a monster's activation, make it move 5 towards you or pull it towards you. Like I think that
Mm,
was a random item we got, and we didn't take it at the time. I think Phil just sold it, but that's worked out really well for the trap class. So
very much.
I think those special items, it's almost like from Dungeons and Dragons, it's like you have your wondrous items. You had your +1, your armor and weapons, but then you had your wondrous items, and they do interesting things. I think the ones we're getting are doing interesting, cool stuff, and that
Yeah.
I think that's been fun so far to see, and they're kind of like little puzzle pieces.
It's like when we unlock a new level of the crafts shop, workshop, or whichever one has access to the items, and we unlock a whole bunch of new items that can be crafted. and we get really excited and we're going through the list of each one, there's no like, oh my God, look at this, right?
Mm.
It's always like, okay, okay. Oh, that's a bit weird. Okay. And then, nothing ever stands out as being, wow, that's so cool. I can't wait to make that. Everything makes you think. And I don't think I've had that in the past, where everything makes you think about, oh, how can I use this? Oh, I can see a little bit of synergy between this and maybe this ability. It's like the item I have. It's like, you can tap it or flip it over and use it up to increase either the number value of a damage you're doing, the range you're doing, adding a target, or movement. And I get to add one number to any of those things, just one of them. And it means that it's so flexible and I can pick it's been so clutch in some scenarios where something was slightly just out of range, or I needed to hit something for one extra damage, or it was just so flexible, and I absolutely love that. I just love how niche and, I don't know, clever that they can make you feel.
I think that was the part of the combo that was that clutch moment that you did, because you
Oh
increased
yeah, birds.
like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
birds, yeah.
The
So
number.
I yeah, 100% agree. And again, that item you've got is a random item that we got,
Mm.
right? So it's really unique. It's not just busted all the time. It's a once off, but it's this kind of cool, yeah, item that you use in different places. So I guess on the topic of how do you find the items, I like it. Like I like it so far. They seem more interesting than in Gloomhaven, and I think they've added more depth to a lot of the characters rather than just be purely you're going to take less damage, you're going to do more damage, you're going to get more cards back.
Yes. I think it might have been, I'd have to check. I was having a chat with Alex about it. But something that came up with some discussions around items that I've noticed in the past is that, some items are just really, really good on characters, right? It's like they're saying, oh, there's certain items that are really good for the characters and everything else is garbage. And I think then people who are looking into guides on how to play the classes feel they need those items,
Yep.
which then makes them feel like the items aren't particularly interesting, and
Yeah.
therefore 90% of the items in the game aren't very good, because they're not interesting, whereas the guide's telling them you need these items, these are mandatory on these characters.
So I guess that's the next part, right? Like, is the crafting process good? Right. So crafting, distilling, how you get your items,
Mm.
right? Because outside of finding the random item or finding the random blueprint, which you cannot rely on at all, right? That's completely random and have a big deck. So is the crafting process good? I think it's fine, but the only problem I can see is exactly what you're talking about. And not so much people looking up guides and going, well, I need these 3 items so that my character's awesome. It's more that you may struggle to get the resources that you need to make stuff. And I mean, you're probably not as much going to struggle for the normal crafter stuff, but I definitely think for the potions, you look and you go, getting herbs is hard, and getting the exact herbs you need is even harder, right? Like, it's hard enough just to get herbs in general. Although, I mean, that's because we didn't unlock the farm, so it's probably going to be super easy now. But I kind of look at certain items, and the problem will be is if items are made for characters and those characters' power level is based on them having those items. That's when there's a problem.
Yeah, okay.
Because if, say, to play the trap, right, there's 2 or 3 items that Mark needs to get that really make the character like work properly, and those are random in some aspect, then that's not good,
No,
right?
but that's kind of like the same thing with Diablo and every other game out there that has a guide. You've got the classes works fine and it's working perfectly fine. There's the top 1% who are clearing harder content because they've got this perfectly min-maxed build that then other people are finding and going, oh, my monk or my wizard's terrible, because I don't have these items. But when I get them, I can then do the damage that this guy's doing, when without this guy even existing, that damage wouldn't exist.
Yep.
So yeah, it just you can. It's, I guess, how much do you want to potentially spoil the organic feel of discovering it yourself? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, well, yeah. That's it. I don't think you can. I don't think you can build something like this around people looking up guides and trying to figure out how to min max everything, because I don't think that's the purpose of the game. Like, not that
Mm.
that's not a way to play it, but if you're talking about the itemization specifically, I don't think the intention of the way the items are designed is to allow people to do that. In fact, it sounds like it's the opposite. Because I remember playing Gloomhaven, and you'd start a new character that was around level 5 or 6, and you just go to the shop and you'd be like, okay, cool. Well, I need a greater stam. I need a stam. I need a healing, right? I need, and then depending what kind of character it was, it's like, okay, I need weapon and armor, or I know boots. Boots was the other one. Because not having a boots refreshable that just gives you +2 move is big, right? It's like, and this, I think we've talked about this in the past, and this was the conversation before we unlocked the stam potions from the little alchemy thing. Not having stam potions and not having boots, proper boots, like, basically means you don't have the get out of jail cards.
Yeah.
Like, I know that the stam potion is in it, and I love the way that they've changed it. So it's just a level 1 card now. I think that's
Mm.
brilliant, right? Get one level 1 card back, and that's it. You're done. Right, so there's
Yeah.
no, oh, I just played my level 8 or 9 card that's busted, and I'm gonna rest. I'm gonna do that again next turn.
But
Like,
I would say I have the stamp potion, and literally on this session, I have had multiple times where I've kind of like, cool, I'm just gonna go through my discard and decide if I'm gonna stam anything. Oh, there's only one level card. Everything else is higher, and the level one that's in there, I really don't care if I get that back right now.
yeah,
So it's kind of like, yeah, it feels good.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, I know that Gloomhaven 2 version 2, whatever they're calling it, second edition, is coming out, and they're fixing a lot of the busted classes. A lot of the classes were busted because of things like stamp potions, right? Like the soothsayer or the scoundrel being able to run in, AoE disarm everything, and then be like, oh, don't worry, I'll just do that next turn as well, right? Like, it's
Hmm.
just, what's the point when you can just basically say that nothing gets a turn for 2 or 3 turns because you've got a potion? Like, so the fact that they've stopped that with this, I think, is good, because it means the classes have to play properly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think overall it's pretty good.
Have you found a use for the potion that does 10 damage to you?
Look, this is the other thing. It's just like, in Isaac we trust, right? So we unlocked the level 3 or 4 alchemist, whichever one gives you the craft 3 potion one. And one of the, we were going through, because we had
It's like
heaps of
it's
herbs,
like a
so we're
hammer
like, oh, we'll
potion or
just go
something.
through this. And one of the ones we made was the hammer potion, which basically just says deal 10 damage to yourself. Now, with the other ones, the ones that poison and wound you, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
The dangerous mixture, or whatever, I don't know what they're called. They seem obvious in that when you just mix 2 of the same herbs, that's what you get, right? So it's kind of like, this is what's going to happen. Now, I still have faith that they'll turn into something. I
It could be
don't
very
get this
niche for a
one.
class, right?
Huh?
It could be very niche for a class. That's the
What?
only thing I
Deal
can
10
think of.
damage to yourself?
Like when something takes damage, it does like a fan of knives or something. I don't know. Like, and that's like an ulti
Maybe.
on him.
I'm going to assume that it is the like a material component in crafting something later.
So you can learn to do 10 damage to something else.
Yeah. Here's a potion that does 10 damage to yourself. Now, this guy's going to teach you how to use it on someone else. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll wait and see. Like, I don't know, it like Bane armor, that when something hits you, they get baned, right?
Oh, yeah, okay, sure.
Well, if it's only usable once per encounter, that's not
Oh,
that
if it's
bad.
once, okay, yeah, okay.
You know,
Sorry,
and that
I'm
matches
thinking
up
of it
with the
like
10
a
damage, right?
yeah.
Because Bane does 10 damage, and the hammer potion is doing that. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And you have that on, is it mandatory?
If it
You're designing the card. Is it mandatory? It'd have to be, right?
Nah, I hate the fact that everything's mandatory.
Nah, I reckon it'd have to be. Or
Nah.
like a shield, like a tap shield.
You want to be you want it to refresh on a rest.
No, but like you decide when
Oh,
you
yeah,
pop it.
you've got to decide.
No,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's way more fun. I think you have to arm it before at the start of your turn. I think that way, if the eels go early and an eel on 1 health comes up to hit you, and then you bait him, I think that's
Yeah, I don't mind that, actually. If you have to use it on a turn, right? So, like, I think Mark had an item that gave one of his summons one shield for the turn, but he had
mm,
to use it. It wasn't reactive. So yeah, I like that. It's like a poisonous armor. So, use this on your turn, and the first thing that hits you gets baned.
Hmm.
Or
All right.
everything that hits you gets baned.
No, no.
Yeah.
We're not tracking Bane, so it's fine. But yeah, I think that I look, I probably it's hard because I'd like to explore crafting a little bit more. It's just there are some times at the end of a scenario we're tired, and that's usually the time when we start looking at all the items. And I always go in at the end of a scenario just going, let's go through all of these cards because some cards require some other items to make. Like I've seen some boots in the past that's like, yep, one of the requirements are, and it doesn't tell you the item, it tells you the number of the item, which means, well, what's that number? I have to go back and look for that item and then go, oh, but these are terrible. And like I can make the crap ones and then immediately make them into the better ones, but it's something that I probably need to be a little bit more focused on doing at the end. It's
Mm,
just usually something that we just kind of sweep under the rug, and then next week we're jumping straight into a new scenario and then rinse and repeat.
yeah.
And like, I think I need to explore it more.
So I would say the only thing I would say that's a negative about the whole process is that I feel like there isn't a lot to work towards. So one of the things with like ARPGs or RPGs in general is that you're kind of on this constant like I'm always just looking for the next upgrade, right? And that might be going to a town to buy it or whatever it is. I feel like in Gloomhaven, you knew what the next thing you wanted to buy was because they were all there and there was good stuff that was it was very linear in that sense. Like you just knew what was better, or you didn't have enough money to buy like a key piece in what you wanted, and so you would save up until you could do it. I feel like in Frosthaven, there isn't enough stuff, and maybe this is the kind of counterbalance to it not being super linear, but there's a lot of times where you just go, I haven't got anything to craft. Like
Yeah,
there's nothing that we can do that would work well for me or be useful for me, so I won't craft anything.
I'm in two minds because like I think that it's maybe a tertiary thing to the whole picture, which is the progressing is obviously to unlock the next level of cards, which is definitely where the power level is going to live. And then the other thing is a lot of the money and saving and getting excited for is to enchant those cards and make them stronger. And therefore the items are not meant to be, too strong or something that we plan towards. I mean, that's ultimately what you're saying. It's just
Mm,
they're there and there's I must be able to craft that because that's going to change so much. But then on the other hand, they've gone into so much effort to create so many items. So it's a shame that that's how we're feeling a little bit when it comes to them, in that we're getting more use, obviously, out of the random ones we're getting. And even though we literally have a folder with all the items in the pocket sleeves to go through and collect, there's so many there. We're just struggling to make use of them
mm.
the way that maybe they're intended. Maybe we're just not seeing it a certain way.
Look, I've got a lot of items. Like I've pretty much got all my slots filled with stuff, and I've got extras because I've just managed to get extras. So I've kind of done a lot with that. But I think you're right. Maybe we'll do that maybe next week and take a little bit of time to have a look through because there could be things we've forgotten about that might work really well for some of the characters we've got. But then even if they're not perfect, like it only costs a couple of resources to make it, and if it's
Mm,
a small benefit, or again, like you said, a lot of the things are real niche. Having more utility or niche options might just allow us to get out of those sticky situations. So
yeah.
it's probably something we should spend a little bit more time on.
Mm. Last of all, before we wrap everything up, Ketchupgate. I've been receiving a lot of feedback about where ketchup, tomato sauce, um, gets stored, and everyone is saying in the fridge.
Hang on, where was this posted?
It's just YouTube comments, um,
Oh, did this
in
go up
on
on one of the
Insta.
videos?
Well, in the special episode that we released, the moments, there was one bit where Mark was getting. Did you not watch it?
Of course I watched. I must have
No,
missed it.
you know what? I put so much effort into that.
Oh, I think
So,
that was the one I was going to watch, but then I was working. Remember, you posted it, and I literally said, "Oh, I'm working. I can't watch this."
okay, okay. Well, yes, people have been commenting and saying it goes in the fridge. I have not had anyone, and I'm with you guys. Like we are together on this. It doesn't go in the fridge,
It goes in the
and
cupboard.
correct.
Who wants to
100% goes
drink
in the
cold
cupboard.
sauce? I mean, drink cold sauce. Who wants to use cold sauce? Why am I
It
dipping my hot
coagulates.
chips in cold sauce?
It coagulates as well. So if you put cold sauce directly out of the fridge onto like a meat pie, a very Australian thing to do, it kind of just sort of doesn't ooze the way you want it to. It just kind of sits up top
Yeah.
like a blob.
Like, I mean, sure, if I just want to make all my food cold,
Mm.
nah,
So
I'm
yeah, we've
sorry.
got a problem. We've got a problem with that, and
Okay,
I'm not too sure what to do.
maybe what we need to do is we need to clarify a different question. So, what tastes better, sauce out of a cupboard or sauce out of the fridge? So, like when you first open your sauce, right? Because it's in the cupboard, yeah, and
I reckon there are people that go straight to the fridge, even though it says
oh.
refrigerate after opening on it. I
It's made
reckon
of
they buy
sugar. It's gonna last and salt. It's gonna last like 100 years. It'll outlive you. Like you don't need to put that shit in the fridge if it's not open.
I'm with you. I don't know what to tell you. I'm actually a little disappointed. Um, so
Disappointed in
yeah,
we're disappointed in the Frosthaven community.
just in general, it's just everyone because at the table, Mark and Phil were fridge, and yeah, it's just
But
I don't know.
surprisingly, Mark is very strong on this, and it's funny because I've known Mark for a long time and I've lived with Mark a lot of times. Right, so we've had this conversation before, and he's very strong on it goes in the fridge. Where is it kept at his house?
Well, I think in the fridge, but Al keeps trying to put it in the pantry.
I'm pretty sure it's in the cupboard and he keeps trying to fight. So I
So
think even in his
he's
own
got the
home when he's really strong on it, he's getting overruled. So
well, that's like me because ours is in the fridge.
oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
don't get to choose where it goes. So
Oh dear.
your
Oh
house
well.
is you've got it sorted.
Well, if anybody can write in and offer us some support or answer the question, what's better on your hot food? Cold fridge sauce or delicious room temperature sauce from the cupboard? Okay, maybe we can get clarity on how we should best serve sauce.
I love it, definitely, and hopefully we can get more people who are pantry people. That's what we're calling it, the pantry movement. So just like the thing I was reading out from Alex, which was actually a really cool question. If you have any topics that you want to give to us over the next couple of weeks, send them through. Gives us time to prepare for them when it comes to the recording sessions, so that we can, yeah, get something put together.
Yeah, and we don't apparently we have heaps of weeks where we're not going to have any content. So please write in and tell us what to talk about.
What are you talking? If there wasn't anything, then I'd come up with something, Gaz. Don't worry.
No,
Calm
I know you
down.
would, but like we actually want real stuff.
Ah, okay. I can just give you updates from Japan about how everything's going. I got
Yep.
Frosthaven in Japanese. I have no idea what's going on. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up there. If you want to contact us, email us. Email us. I get worse at this every time. I need a voiceover or something. One of those people. If you would like to contact us at email, contact@rollingterribly.com. We can be found on Instagram at am_dirt and Twitter at umdirt and youtube.com/amdirt. Teddy
Yeah.
and Gaz are proud partners of Pantry People.
If anybody out there is a voiceover person that does those really quick, super speedy voiceovers for insurance ads, hit us up and we'll get you to record our amDirt socials, and you can just I don't know live on our podcast.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to us again. I've been Teddy. I've been joined again by Gaz.
And remember, when it comes to storing sauce, the cupboard is where it lives.